Man of Steel. Now, I was really looking forward to Man of Steel. Not gonna lie, I wasn't initially impressed by the first two trailers for this movie, but once that third epic trailer came out, I was definitely on board. Now, Man of Steel is brought to us by director Zack Snyder of Watchmen 300, Dawn of the Dead, and Sucker Punch fame. I was a little worried about Zack Snyder at the helm of this movie because his films tend to be more style over substance. But what gave me hope for this is Christopher Nolan, most famously for, of course, The Dark Knight Rises stuff, was producing this movie. I was very curious to see how much Nolan had to do with the film, or if he was just a guy who gave money to the movie, so I was really curious to see what was going to go with that. Now, at first, I wanted to ignore all reviews for this movie before seeing it, but I stumbled upon what seemed to be some very negative reviews. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, this movie has 57%, and that is rotten, so that was really shocking. So seeing all this bad buzz for this movie made me lower my expectations a lot going in, and I'm pretty happy that I did that. So overall, how was Man of Steel? This movie reminds me a lot of a game of darts. You throw a dart, and it's on a really good course. It's a steady path, but then a tiny little gust of air blows the dart just a little to the side, and it barely misses that bullseye. That is how I feel about this movie. This is a good movie, and I will leave it at that. By no means is this a bad film, but it isn't great like we were all hoping. Now, the story of this movie kicks off on Krypton, where Superman is being born. Superman's father, Jor-El, played by Russell Crowe, has predicted the planet Krypton is going to explode. In an act of kindness, he sends his son, Kal-El, who is, of course, Superman, to Earth. While this is all happening, the evil villain General Zod, played by Michael Shannon, wants to take over Krypton, but is caught and sent to this place called the Plasma Zone. Now, Krypton, like Jor-El predicted, does indeed blow up, and General Zod is able to break free because of this from his prison, and he can go after young Kal-El. At this point in the movie, it flashes forward to when Superman is an adult and he's trying to find his way on Earth. He's bouncing around jobs, and it's really cool to see that. But then they tell the story of Superman's childhood through flashbacks. Now, I understand this is a more artistic and interesting way of doing it, but I would have preferred them to tell a more linear sense because you lose some emotional connection to the characters knowing they aren't really there. The plot of this movie really picks up, though, when General Zod returns to Earth to capture Kal-El because he needs him to rebuild Krypton on Earth. Of course, Kal-El doesn't want this to happen, so he goes on a quest to stop Zod, and then lots of intense action sequences ensue. I'm not going to get any further than that to avoid spoilers. So let's begin talking about the good stuff in this movie. Mainly the acting. I loved Henry Cavill as the Man of Steel himself, Superman. He looked the part and had enough charm to pull it off. I'm not sure he was on the same level of Christopher Reeves, but Reeves' performance is so nostalgic it is hard for anyone to be better than him. I feel as if Cavill actually did a better job as Superman, but a lesser job as Clark Kent because he just wasn't as believable as Clark, but still really good. The actors who played Clark when he was younger, I believe there was a little kid, then there's like a teenager Clark. Those guys, they did also a very solid job in their very limited roles. Amy Adams does a good job as a love interest to Lois Lane, but I feel as if her relationship with Clark was extremely forced, and I never felt that there was any chemistry between Cavill and Adams in this movie. However, my favorite performances from this film came from both of Superman's dads, Russell Crowe, who played Superman's real dad, and Kevin Costner, who played Superman's Earth dad. Now, Russell Crowe did a really great job, and without spoiling anything, there is some little plot holes with them, but I really thought he did a fantastic job with his character. And also, Kevin Costner does an amazing job as Superman's Earthfather. He really handles those emotional scenes well, and even though you only see him through flashbacks, he is still a really fantastic character, and you really like him. Other characters such as Lawrence Fishburne's Perry White, the leader of the Daily Planet, were good but not really given enough to do here. And the main standout to me was Michael Shannon and General Zod, but not really in a positive way. Shannon does a fine job with his performance, but the villain really isn't memorable. A hero is only as good as his villain, and the comic book movies have been consistently having great villains lately, so Zod was just kind of a disappointment. A positive thing about Zod, however, was that you could see where he was coming from. His motives made sense, and he really wasn't just an evil maniac the whole time overall, which was a really good thing about the character, but overall I just think he wasn't that memorable. But in total, all the acting is really superb, and the characters, however, were painfully underdeveloped. So many people felt like they were just thrown into this movie with no explanation whatsoever, and that was just a really unfortunate thing. Even Superman's development isn't that great. You never ever really just get a fully feel for this character. Now, the action in this movie is really good, but there is a lot of it. You don't really get enough time to cool down and take a breather, and it's a bit overwhelming. But when there is action, it is really awesome. The special effects and cinematography are very well done. This movie really did look great. However, there is lots of CGI, which is kind of weird considering they're going for the more realistic approach with this movie. The CGI kind of throws you for a limb there, but that's kind of odd. Now, the music composed by Hans Zimmer is great as always, but we sadly got a lot of that music in the trailer, so it was kind of spoiled for us and was a little bit too familiar while watching this movie. The movie is paced very well, sitting at about 2.5 hours. There are not really that many dull moments, and it wasn't boring or interesting at all, which was really great. But one major complaint that I had is that there was hardly any humor at all in this movie. It does have a couple of jokes, but they feel very forced and not really natural and just kind of thrown in there randomly. And one thing that you cannot deny Marvel has done so well, and so much better than DC, is that they have lots of humor, genuine humor in the movie that makes the movie overall more entertaining. And that's definitely something this film was lacking. Overall, Man of Steel was a very enjoyable summer blockbuster, but that leaves you wanting a little bit more. I would give it about an 8 out of 10. I'm excited to see what they do with the sequel. I hope you guys enjoy my movie review, and please check out my other videos, and don't forget to like this video, and of course, subscribe. See you all next time.